The night is particularly beautiful in Milan. The restaurant Matteo chose is by the Navigli, with the lights reflecting on the canal's calm waters. Chiara arrives excited, wearing a simple yet elegant black dress. Matteo, already seated, stands to greet her with a kiss on the cheek. "You look beautiful," he says with a nervous smile. Chiara smiles but notices something different about him. Matteo is quieter than usual, fidgeting with the napkin in his fingers. "Is everything okay, Matteo? You seem tense." Matteo quickly tries to brush it off, shaking his head. "Me? No. Everything's fine. I just wanted tonight to be special." They order their favorite dishes, and the conversation flows easily. Matteo asks Chiara about her day, praises the new project she just completed at work, and from time to time, seems to lose himself in looking at her. Chiara laughs. "Why are you looking at me like that? It's like you're studying me." "Maybe I am," he replies playfully. "Or maybe I'm just trying to capture this moment." Chiara shakes her head, laughing, but she starts to suspect something. Matteo isn't usually this sentimental without a reason. When the dishes are cleared away, and the waiter pours more wine, Matteo takes a deep breath. He stands slightly, pulls a small velvet box from his pocket, and hesitantly places it on the table. Chiara's eyes widen. Time seems to stop. Matteo begins to speak, his voice slightly trembling. "Chiara, you know, from the moment I met you, my life changed. You made me believe in things I never thought were possible. You made me want to be a better man. And now, I want to spend the rest of my life with you." He opens the box, revealing a simple yet incredibly beautiful ring. "Will you marry me?" Chiara feels as if she's been struck by lightning. Her hands start to sweat, and her mind is flooded with images of her parents' troubled marriage, the endless arguments, her mother's hidden tears, the sense of abandonment. She looks at Matteo, at the ring, and feels trapped. The words stick in her throat, and the silence stretches for a few seconds that feel like an eternity. "Matteo," she finally says, her voice barely audible. I don't know. I need time to think." Matteo tries to hide his disappointment, but his eyes betray the pain he feels. He slowly closes the box and responds with a forced smile. "That's okay, Chiara. I don't want to pressure you. I just want you to know how much you mean to me." Chiara nods, but guilt begins to consume her. She knows Matteo is the perfect man for her, but the idea of marriage terrifies her. Chiara quickly apologizes and leaves the restaurant. She walks through Milan's illuminated streets, tears streaming down her face. The city feels suffocating, as if the lights and movement around her are a constant reminder of what she just refused. "Why can't I just say yes?" she murmurs to herself. As she walks, flashes of her childhood flood her mind. The sound of her parents' arguments echoing through the house. The image of her mother crying alone in the kitchen. The phrase her mother always repeated, "Marriage is a trap. Never let yourself get caught." Chiara whispers to herself, "Am I like her? Will I end up like her?" When she gets home, Chiara finds a note from Matteo in her bag, along with the ring. It reads, "You don't have to decide now, but I want you to know how much you mean to me." She holds the note and the ring, feeling a mix of love and fear. Sitting on the couch, she stares at the sparkling object, but can't even bring herself to touch it. In the middle of the night, Chiara wakes up startled from a nightmare. She dreams she's dressed as a bride, but standing alone at the altar in an empty hall. In the background, she hears her mother's voice saying, "I warned you. Marriage only brings pain." Chiara picks up her phone, still trembling, and finds a message from Anna that she had ignored earlier. "Hi Chiara. Would you like to schedule a session to revisit some themes? I'm here if you need." She types quickly, "Yes, I need help. As soon as possible." Chiara walks toward Anna's office on a cold morning. Milan's streets are bustling, but she barely notices the sound of cars or the conversations around her. Her thoughts are a whirlwind, circling the ring she left on her table at home, and Matteo's disappointed gaze. When she reaches the office door, Chiara pauses for a moment, takes a deep breath, and tries to summon the courage to enter. Anna, with her calm and reassuring presence, greets Chiara with a warm smile. "Chiara, it's good to see you. What brings you here today?" Chiara sits in the comfortable chair, her hands clasped in her lap, visibly nervous. "I don't even know where to begin, Anna. Matteo proposed to me and I panicked. I love him, but all I can think about is how everything will go wrong. I see marriage as a prison, and that terrifies me. Anna tilts her head slightly, her voice always gentle. When you think about marriage, what are the first images or feelings that come to your mind? Chiara averts her gaze, hesitating, but finally responds. Fights. Pain. Abandonment. It's my parents' marriage, Anna. That's how I grew up, hearing yelling and seeing my mother cry. She always said marriage was a trap, that love was dangerous. Anna watches her closely and suggests, let's explore these associations through a constellation. It's possible that the fears you're feeling aren't entirely your own. Let's see what comes up. Chiara nods, though she hesitates for a moment. I trust you, Anna. Let's try. Anna asks Chiara to choose pieces to represent herself, her parents, and the concept of marriage. When Chiara positions the pieces on the table, something becomes clear. The piece representing marriage is isolated, surrounded by tension. The pieces representing her parents are turned toward each other, locked in conflict. Anna asks, how do you feel looking at this arrangement? Chiara observes the pieces for a moment, and her eyes start to fill with tears. I feel pain. I feel trapped in the middle. And that marriage piece, it feels like it's made of iron. Cold, hard, unyielding. Anna guides Chiara in a symbolic dialogue with the marriage piece. I want you to ask this figure, who are you in my life? Chiara, her voice trembling, murmurs, who are you in my life? Anna prompts her to respond with what she feels. Your conflict. Your pain. You're something that destroys people. Anna then asks, Chiara, whose voice do you think this is? Is this vision of marriage yours, or does it come from someone else? Chiara closes her eyes, and flashes of the past appear. Her mother crying while washing dishes in the kitchen. Her father leaving the house angrily, slamming the door. The phrase her mother constantly repeated, never depend on a man, Chiara. They'll always let you down. Chiara opens her eyes, tears streaming down her face. It's my mother's voice. It's what she always said. Anna observes her empathetically. You grew up associating marriage with the pain your parents experienced. But their marriage isn't the only model, Chiara. Let's explore how you can create something different, something that's yours. Chiara looks at the pieces again, and feels a knot in her stomach. I realize now that I never believed it could work. I always thought I was destined to repeat what they went through. Anna smiles kindly, recognizing that is the first step. These fears aren't yours, Chiara. They're stories you inherited, but you can choose to leave them in the past. At the end of the session, Anna suggests that Chiara talk to her mother about her marriage. Understanding more about your mother's story might help you distinguish what's truly yours from what belongs to her. Chiara hesitates. My mom never talks about it, Anna. But I think I need to try. Leaving Anna's office, Chiara walks slowly through the streets, feeling the cold air on her face. She reflects on Anna's words and wonders. What if I've been living a story that isn't mine? Can I really create something different with Matteo? When she gets home, Chiara looks again at the ring on the table, but this time there's something different in her eyes. A small spark of hope. Chiara stands in front of her mother Marta's door. It's a Sunday afternoon, and the sun gently illuminates the hallway of the old building. She takes a deep breath, hesitating before ringing the doorbell. In her mind, Anna's advice echoes, talk to your mother. Understanding more about her story might help you free yourself from the fears you carry. When Marta opens the door, her hair is tied in a simple bun, and she's wearing an apron dusted with flour. The smell of freshly baked cake wafts through the hallway, bringing a nostalgic touch that makes Chiara hesitate even more. Chiara, what a lovely surprise! Marta exclaims with a smile, hugging her daughter. Come in. I'm making that orange cake you love so much. Chiara smiles, but her nervousness is palpable. Hi, Mom. I needed to talk. I thought I'd spend some time with you. While Marta pours 2 cups of coffee and cuts a slice of cake, Chiara tries to calm herself. The two sit at the kitchen table, where Chiara spent so many moments of her childhood. But the weight of what she needs to say makes the familiar space feel unfamiliar. Mom, I need to ask you something. Chiara begins hesitantly. Marta looks at her, curious. What is it, sweetheart? Are you okay? Chiara averts her gaze, fidgeting with her coffee cup. Matteo proposed to me. Marta smiles. but her smile fades quickly when she sees Chiara's expression. That's wonderful. But you don't seem happy. Chiara takes a deep breath, her voice almost a whisper. I was terrified, Mom. And I realized that every time I think about marriage, all I can think about is you and Dad. The fights, the silence, the pain. Marta remains silent, her face tense. Chiara continues. I know your marriage with Dad was difficult, but I need to understand. What happened between you two? Marta sighs deeply, crossing her arms. Chiara, those things are in the past. I don't know why you want to bring them up now. Chiara presses on, her voice gaining strength. Mom, I need to know. I'm afraid to get married because I think I'll end up like you. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. Please help me understand. Marta is silent for a few moments, staring at the table as if she's carefully choosing her words. Finally, she begins to speak. Your father and I fell in love very young, Marta says, her voice filled with emotion. At first, everything was perfect, but over time things changed. He got lost in his work, in dreams that no longer included us. And I got lost trying to save something that was already broken. Chiara listens intently, but feels there's more to the story. You told me he cheated on you, but that can't be all, Mom. What else happened? Marta averts her eyes, as if she's battling her own memories. Finally, she sighs deeply. Chiara, your father wasn't the only one who made mistakes. Chiara's eyes widen, surprised. What do you mean? Marta looks at her directly, her eyes welling up with tears. I cheated on him too. Not because I wanted to, but because I was so hurt, so destroyed by what he did to me. It was a moment of weakness, and he found out. After that, our marriage was never the same. We were both trapped in a cycle of guilt and resentment, and neither of us could break free. Chiara feels as if the ground has been pulled out from under her. She never imagined that her mother, who had always presented herself as the victim, had also made mistakes. You cheated on Dad? But you always said you stayed because of me. Why? Marta wipes away a tear running down her cheek. Because I was scared, Chiara. Scared of being alone. Scared of raising a child without a family. And deep down, scared of facing my own mistakes. Chiara feels a lump in her throat. So you stayed together out of fear? Is that what I learned to call marriage? Marta takes Chiara's hand firmly, her voice trembling. Chiara, I never wanted you to carry this weight. I know I made mistakes. I know I let you grow up in an environment full of conflict and pain. But you have to understand that this doesn't have to be your story. Chiara tries to process her mother's words, but her mind is in turmoil. I spent my whole life thinking marriage was a trap, because that's what I saw with you too. But now Chiara takes out her phone and sends a message to Anna. I found out things about my parents that change everything. We need to work on this in the next session. Back at home, Chiara stares at the ring on the table once again. This time, she slides it onto her finger just to try it on. The weight of the metal feels strange, but she realizes there's also something symbolic about it. Maybe it's time to start writing my own story. Matteo's apartment is softly lit by the fading light of the sunset. He sits on the couch, worry etched on his face, holding his phone. It's been days since he last saw Chiara, and the distance is unsettling him. Finally, he types a short message. Chiara, can we talk? I need to know how you're feeling. Chiara reads the message at home, but she hesitates. Her heart races and her mother's words, you're not me. You can choose something different, echo in her mind. After a few minutes of indecision, she replies, yes. Can we meet tonight? Matteo responds almost immediately. Come over. I'm home. Chiara arrives at Matteo's apartment, feeling the weight of silence in the air as he greets her. The space feels familiar yet strange. Matteo smiles, but it's a strange smile. Hi, he says, holding the door open. Hi, she replies, stepping inside. Matteo closes the door and walks toward the living room. He tries to remain calm, but his nervousness is palpable. Would you like something to drink? Wine, water? Chiara shakes her head. No thanks. I think we need to talk. Matteo sits on the couch, looking at her directly. I think so too. Chiara sits in a chair across from him, and for a moment, the silence dominates the room. Finally, Matteo breaks the ice. Chiara, I love you, but I don't know what's going on. Since I proposed, it feels like you've been avoiding me. Why? I need to understand. Chiara sighs, running her hands through her hair. Her voice is hesitant but firm. Matteo, when you proposed, I panicked. Not because I don't love you, but because I was terrified. Matteo frowns, clearly confused. Terrified of what? Chiara, we've been together for years. I thought we were ready to take this step. Chiara looks at him, her eyes glistening with tears. I thought I was ready too. But when you proposed, all I could think about was my parents' marriage. It was a disaster, Matteo. My dad cheated on my mom. She stayed trapped in an unhappy relationship because of me. I grew up hearing that marriage is a trap. I don't know if I can handle it. Matteo remains silent for a moment, processing what he's just heard. Finally, he responds, his voice low but firm. Chiara, I understand that what you saw was hard, but I'm not your father, and you're not your mother. What we're building is ours. It's different. Chiara shakes her head, as if battling her own emotions. I know, Matteo, but it's hard not to feel like if I get married, I'll end up like them. It feels inevitable. Matteo stands, walking to the window. He stays with his back to her for a moment before turning around. Loving someone is always a risk, Chiara, and I'm willing to take that risk with you. But I need to know if you're willing too, because if you're not, maybe we're both wasting our time. His words hit Chiara like a blow. She feels a lump in her throat, but tries to respond. I want to be willing, Matteo. I need time to figure all this out. Matteo sits back down, this time with a more tired expression. Chiara, I love you more than anything. But I need you to trust me. I need you to see that what we have is real. If you keep pushing me away, because of something that isn't even ours, I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Chiara feels tears streaming down her face. Matteo, I don't want to push you away. I'm just trying to do my best. Matteo watches her for a long moment before finally saying, I know. Chiara takes out her phone and sends a message to Anna. I found out things about my parents that change everything. We need to work on this in the next session. Back at home, Chiara stares at the ring on the table once again. This time, she slides it onto her finger just to try it on. The weight of the metal feels strange, but she realizes there's also something symbolic about it. Maybe it's time to start writing my own story. Chiara is back at the kitchen table in her mother Marta's home. Marta stirs her tea slowly, as if preparing for a conversation she never wanted to have. Chiara, on the other hand, seems anxious, almost restless. Mom, I need to understand more about you too. You said you stayed in your marriage because of me, but that can't be the whole story. I feel like there's something you've never told me. Marta stops stirring her tea and looks at Chiara. Her gaze is heavy, as if carrying years of untold stories. Why do you want to know this now, Chiara? Because all of this is holding me back. Matteo proposed to me and I love him, but I can't say yes. Every time I think about it, I feel trapped in the same pain you and Dad went through. I need to understand, Mom. Please. Marta takes a deep breath and sets her spoon on the table. Fine. If you think this will help, I'll tell you. Marta begins hesitantly, but as she speaks, the emotion in her voice grows. When your father and I got married, things were good. We were young in love. He was charming, full of dreams. But over time, those dreams became bigger than he could handle. He started pulling away, looking for things outside of our home. And that's when everything started falling apart. Chiara listens carefully, but feels there's more to the story. You told me he cheated on you, but that can't be everything, Mom. What else happened? Marta averts her gaze, as if battling her own memories. Finally, she sighs deeply. Chiara, your father wasn't the only one who made mistakes. Chiara's eyes widen, surprised. What do you mean? Marta looks at her directly, her eyes welling up with tears. I cheated on him too. Not because I wanted to, but because I was so hurt, so destroyed by what he did to me. It was a moment of weakness, and he found out. After that, our marriage was never the same. We were both trapped in a cycle of guilt and resentment, and neither of us could break free. Chiara feels like the ground has been pulled out from under her. She never imagined that her mother, who always presented herself as the victim, had also made mistakes. You cheated on Dad? But you always said you stayed because of me. Why? Marta wipes away a tear running down her cheek. Because I was scared, Chiara. Scared of being alone. Scared of raising a child without a family. And deep down, scared of facing my own mistakes. Chiara feels a lump in her throat. So you stayed together out of fear? Is that what I learned to call marriage? Marta takes Chiara's hand firmly, her voice trembling. Chiara, I never wanted you to carry this weight. I know I made mistakes. I know I let you grow up in an environment full of conflict and pain. But you have to understand that this doesn't have to be your story. Chiara tries to process her mother's words, but her mind is in turmoil. I spent my whole life thinking marriage was a trap, because that's what I saw with you too. But now I see that what destroyed you wasn't marriage. It was your choices. Your wrong choices. Marta smiles faintly, a melancholic look in her eyes. Exactly. And now you have the chance to make different choices, Chiara. You have Matteo who loves you, who's willing to build something with you. Don't let my mistakes define your future. Chiara leaves her mother's house, but Marta's words continue to echo in her mind. I'm not my mother. I'm not my father. I can choose to be different. She walks through Milan's streets, reflecting on what she has discovered. For the first time, she feels she's beginning to separate her own identity from her parents. At home, Chiara looks at the ring again. This time, she puts it on her finger, watching how it shines under the lamp's light. Maybe it's time to stop running away. She picks up her phone and calls Matteo. When he answers, her voice is hesitant but full of emotion. Matteo, can we meet? I need to talk to you. Chiara is back in Anna's office, but something feels different this time. She isn't just anxious or confused. There's a new weight on her shoulders, a mix of revelation and responsibility. Anna, always calm and welcoming, watches Chiara enter and sit down, noting the determination mixed with fatigue in her expression. Chiara, what have you discovered since the last session? Anna asks, leaning slightly forward, ready to listen. Chiara takes a deep breath and begins. My mother told me things about her marriage with my father that change everything. She told me he cheated on her, but that she cheated too. That they stayed together out of fear. It wasn't marriage that destroyed them, Anna. It was their choices. And that scares me because, what if I make the same bad choices? What if I ruin everything with Matteo because of these fears? Anna listens attentively and after a brief pause suggests, let's explore this further with a constellation. It might help you separate what belongs to your parents from what is truly yours. Chiara nods, and Anna arranges pieces to represent Chiara, her parents, and the concept of marriage. Chiara looks at the arrangement on the table and immediately feels uncomfortable. The pieces representing her parents are side by side, but turned away from each other, while the piece representing Chiara is positioned in front of them, leaning toward the marriage piece, as if trapped. Chiara points to the pieces and says, this is exactly how I feel. Trapped in the middle, like I'm carrying something I can't let go of. Anna asks, if you could say something to your parents, what would you say now? Chiara takes a deep breath, her voice trembling but resolute. I'd say, I love you, but these wounds aren't mine. I don't want to carry the weight of the mistakes you made. Anna guides Chiara through a symbolic exercise to release the emotional burdens she's carrying from her parents. Visualize these fears, this pain, as something physical that you're holding. Now imagine yourself giving it back to your parents. Chiara closes her eyes, concentrating. After a few moments, she says, I see it as a heavy suitcase, and I'm giving it back to them. I still love them, but that suitcase isn't mine. When she opens her eyes, Chiara looks at the arrangement on the table and notices something different. The pieces representing her parents now feel less overwhelming, and the marriage piece appears more accessible, less intimidating. Anna smiles. You've made a big step today, Chiara. Recognizing that these fears aren't yours is the first step toward creating your own story. Chiara leaves Anna's office feeling exhausted but also relieved. As she walks through Milan's streets, she reflects on what has happened. I'm not my mother. I'm not my father. And marriage isn't the enemy I thought it was. It's just what we make of it. Back at home, Chiara picks up the engagement ring and holds it carefully. This time, the oppressive weight she once felt is gone. She slides it onto her finger and watches how it glimmers under the light. I'm still scared, she murmurs. But maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe it's time to choose to trust. She picks up her phone and calls Matteo. When he answers, her voice is hesitant but filled with emotion. Matteo, can we meet? I need to talk to you. Matteo sits on a bench in the park where he and Chiara used to walk during the early months of their relationship. The afternoon is gray, and the November chill seems to mirror the weight in his chest. He holds his phone, reading and rereading the message Chiara sent. Can we meet? I need to talk to you. He replies with a short message. I'm at the park. At our spot. As he waits, Matteo tries to keep his expectations in check. He loves Chiara, but doubt and fear have started creeping into his mind. What if she isn't ready? What if I'm waiting for something that will never happen? In the distance, he sees her approaching. She's wrapped in a heavy coat, her hands in her pockets, her face pale but determined. Matteo stands, watching every step she takes until they're finally face to face. Hi, she says softly but nervously. Hi, he replies, trying to hide the mix of anxiety and hope. Chiara sits next to him on the bench, but there's a physical distance between them that reflects the emotional tension. She looks at the fallen leaves the wind is scattering, avoiding his gaze. Thank you for coming, Chiara begins. I know I've been difficult these past few weeks, and you deserve an explanation. Matteo crosses his arms, as if trying to protect himself from the cold, and from the words he isn't sure he's ready to hear. Chiara, I just want to know what's going on. I love you, but it feels like you're fighting against me instead of with me. Chiara closes her eyes for a moment, trying to find the right words. You're right. I was fighting against you. But it wasn't just you, Matteo. I was fighting with myself, with what I thought marriage meant. I thought it was what destroyed my parents. But now I see that it was their choices, their fears, not marriage itself. Matteo watches her silently, processing her words. Finally, he asks, and what does that mean for us, Chiara? Are you still afraid? Chiara looks at him for the first time since she arrived. Her eyes are wet with tears, but her voice is firm. Yes, I'm still afraid. But now I know that fear doesn't have to control me. I've realized that what I feared most was repeating my parents' mistakes. And now I want to believe that we can do something different. That we are different. Matteo feels a deep sense of relief, but he can't help smiling wryly. Do you realize you just told me you want to marry me without using those words? Chiara laughs, and for the first time in weeks, the tension between them begins to dissolve. She looks at him with tenderness and nervousness. Then I'll say it, yes, Matteo. I want to marry you. Matteo laughs, surprised and overjoyed. He takes her face in his hands and kisses her, a kiss full of relief and promise. After the kiss, they remain seated on the bench, but now they're close, with Matteo wrapping Chiara in his arms. Chiara, I never wanted to pressure you, he says softly. I just wanted you to know I'm here. I always have been. Chiara rests her head on his shoulder, feeling a mix of peace and vulnerability. I know, and I think that's what helped me get here. Matteo smiles and jokes. Now we just have to plan the wedding. And if you want, you can take care of the complicated parts. I'll handle picking the cake. Chiara laughs again, but this time it's a light, freeing laugh. Deal. But I get to choose the venue. As they walk together out of the park, Chiara reflects silently. For so long, I thought marriage was the end of everything. But now I see it can be a beginning. A beginning where the choices are mine, not reflections of the past. When they reach Matteo's building, he pulls her close again with a mischievous smile. Now that you've said yes, there's something I want to ask you. Chiara raises an eyebrow, intrigued. Another question? Don't you think you've already put me through enough? Matteo laughs. Will you help me tell your parents? Especially your mom. Chiara freezes for a moment, but then she laughs too. Now you're asking too much. But yes, we'll tell them together. It's a sunny morning when Chiara and Matteo arrive at Marta's house. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and orange cake fills the air. Marta, opening the door, is surprised to see them together. Chiara, Matteo, what a lovely surprise, she exclaims, hugging them both. Chiara takes Matteo's hand and leads him to the kitchen. The three sit at the table, and the atmosphere is thick with palpable tension. Marta watches them curiously, wondering what brought them here. Mom, Chiara begins, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Matteo proposed to me, and I said yes. For a moment, silence fills the room. Marta looks at her daughter and Matteo, processing what she just heard. Finally, she smiles, but there's a hint of concern in her eyes. Are you sure, Chiara? Marta asks gently. You know how much I love you. And I want nothing but happiness for you. I just want to make sure this is truly what you want. Chiara takes her mother's hand tenderly. Mom, I'm still afraid. But now I know that fear isn't mine. It's yours, it's what you went through. I don't want that to stop me from building something different with Matteo. Marta looks at her daughter, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm so proud of you, Chiara. You've grown more than I ever imagined. And I know you'll make the right choices. Matteo, who has remained silent until now, takes Marta's hand with a sincere smile. I promise I'll always take care of your daughter. Marta nods, emotional, and hugs them both. For the first time in a long while, the kitchen fills with a warmth that doesn't come from the oven, but from the relief and hope shared among them.